Good afternoon and welcome to Higher Ed Live, the live weekly web show all about the world of higher education. We are all about digital development, professional empowerment, and bringing you the content you want to hear every Thursday afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We are live from Southern New Hampshire University here in Manchester. Thanks as always to them for hosting us, and thanks to you guys for tuning in because we have quite a show today. We're talking about Twitter in education, in the classroom, outside of the classroom, in marketing materials, everything. It's 2012, guys. It's time for us to look back, highlight some really cool examples, and talk about where we're really at, what can we really do with the tool that we all use all the time. And if you're using the tool, don't forget the hashtag is HigherEdLive. You can submit your questions. We're going to be reading them, displaying them on screen, and making sure that you are running this show and are part of the conversation. But first, let's thank the sponsors that help make Higher Ed Live possible. Higher Ed Live is sponsored by the guys at Integral, the creators of the Schools app on Facebook. Check out their latest white paper, Social Media Measurement for Colleges and Universities, to learn what matters and what doesn't in social media. Are you guys measuring what matters? Check it out to find out. We just tweeted a link out. It's worth a look. We're also sponsored by Omni Update, the leading web content management system CMS provider for higher education. The company's web CMS OU campus, it's secure and scalable with great tools and features, deployment flexibility, and an awesome user community. Check out how Victor Valley College went mobile with Omni Update. We sent a link out. It's a really nice little read if you are so interested. We're also sponsored by Scavenger, a Google-funded mobile game about going places, doing challenges, and also earning points. Scavenger is all about sending your messages to students in a fun way. Just how fun is it? See for yourself and check out what University of Louisville is doing with the Cardinal Challenge and see how it's helping to unite students with their campus through a fun, engaging game. So thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to you guys for tuning in. We start each and every show with something I have to call the Weekly Five stories from around the world of higher education worth checking out, and we're going to get those links out to you as we do it. Coming up first, it's a post actually over at Higher Ed Live that we wrote. It was off something we talked about last week about rethinking mobile and higher ed, and the reason I wanted to plug it this week is not because of what we wrote, but because what you guys wrote. Really great comment string going on over here. 22 comments going on. The article's just really taking off. Who is the primary driver in the mobile world for higher ed? My argument was it's admissions. Whether or not you agree, weigh in and let me know. I would love to hear it. Coming up next, we also have the dynamic map for EdTech K through 12. Now, I know it's Higher Ed Live, but I got to share this with you guys. It's a pretty cool map all about EdTech technology, K through 12, totally dynamic, really fun. Check this out and just browse through and click through. It's an interesting way to understand the EdTech world and where EdTech is being deployed and how. Let's be honest, it's a pretty big and busy space, so sometimes when you can get a nice visual like this to figure out what's going on, it is fun to take a look. Next up is a nice post over by Brandon Croak at Integral about how Facebook's new page changes are going to affect higher ed. Now, obviously, today's show is all about Twitter, but there are some big changes. Brand pages are going to be getting timeline. There's questions about what's going to happen to the tabs that you and I probably use all the time. It's important. You know, the reality is the changes are coming slowly. A lot of information is not there yet, but if you guys are an admin on a page, you're going to want to find out exactly what's happening and want to be part of the conversation that we're trying to make happen to see what's going to change, how it will impact you. Next up, I got to give a plug, not from me, but to the amazing team I work with here at SNHU. We had a little bit of fun this week and hid an Easter egg at snhu.edu. If you guys go to the homepage of snhu.edu and hit the famous Konami code, up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, you're going to get a special surprise. And that's a sneak peek. That's all you get to see, but guys, check it out. It's really funny, and it's nice when you can have a little bit of fun on the home page of a university. We're surprised we can pull it off, but we could, so I hope you guys can enjoy it while we can. And finally, if you are at all in the Boston area, make sure that you guys know that the ED Universe launch party is next week. It's M. Stoner's new social gathering ground online, I guess you could say, for higher ed folks. I'm going to be there. I know a lot of other folks are too, so it's just a great chance for all of us in the Boston area to get together. That's coming up next week. It's at Scavenger headquarters, so hats off to them for opening up their doors. Make sure to check that out if you can. I would love to see you. And finally, the unsolicited shout out of the week, where I shout out any person, place, thing, or idea. Why? Because I can. It's my show. Get your own show. You can do the same thing. It's that easy. My shout out this week goes out, actually, to my grandfather. Got to prop it up. He was Robert Cadera. He was the president of Nazareth College and was the first male president, took Nazareth male. He also was the second president at Sacred Cross, and I just want to say thanks to him. He's no longer around, but he not only got me inspired to get into PR, which was his background first at Marquette, but I definitely feel a little bit honored in a small way to be following his footsteps in higher education. So my hat's off to him, and if there's someone that's inspired you in higher ed, whether 10 years ago, 10 minutes ago, whatever it is, send a tweet out with the hashtag HigherEdLive. I would love to see who's inspiring you, because my grandfather Robert Cadera from Nazareth, he's inspiring me. And that's the unsolicited shout out. Guys, we just whipped through all that. Why? Because we want to get right to today's show and make it happen. And we have two guests here today to talk all about Twitter and education. Allow me to welcome the first one up. And the first one is Emerson College marketing professor David Gerzoff Richard. I think I got the last name right. Is that right, Dave? Yeah. Okay, we got a nod for David.
That is correct, yes.
Perfect. So, sorry, welcome to the show, Dave. I'm really happy to have you here. And if you haven't followed Dave on Twitter before, I'm sending out his handle now. He's done some really cool stuff with his students with Twitter. It's really exciting. And Dave is not the only guest we have today. We also have Mr. Regular, Mike Petroff himself from Emerson as well, to weigh in on Twitter's use in marketing in higher ed and enrollment, admissions, everything else. So, Mike, welcome back to the program. You're just about stealing my job. I invite you on so much, but I love having you on. I really do.
I'm hoping I have the sidekick status at this point with this show.
I definitely think that you have earned sidekick status for sure. So, guys, as we dive into this conversation with our two guests today, I just wanted to frame something very briefly, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Because the reality is, it's 2012, right? And here we are, and we've never done a show on Twitter on Higher Ed Live. How did we get this far, a year and a half into existence and not do it? I'm not really sure, but we're going to make up for it today. And what we're going to do is talk about how is Twitter being used. Because the reality is, in 2012, when's the last time you heard about some really cool uses of Twitter in education? They're a little few and far between, and my fear is that maybe some of us are getting a little too comfortable. We've said, okay, here's how we can use it, and we're sitting back, and what I want to know from you guys out there right now on Twitter is, what are you doing today that you weren't doing last year, the year before? What are we doing differently? And I want to talk to our guests today about how Twitter's working inside the classroom right now, and just see how is it being used. It's a huge topic to tackle, but my goal is that we can have a conversation with where are we at, where is it working, where is it moving forward. Let's just try to break this tool down and really feel out where it fits in our world. So that's what we're going to try to do. I hope you guys can keep up. I'm always a little bit amped to talk about it. But first, let's bring Dave back onto the show. So Dave, welcome again to Higher Ed Live. And can you just tell us a little bit briefly as an introduction for folks about how your use of Twitter, just a little bit in the classroom, and then we'll dive into some of the more interesting examples that you've been sharing over the course of the show.
Sure, happy to. So, well, to start off with the class, it's a social media and marketing class. So we're applying marketing, social media to marketing. And so we use Twitter in a couple different ways. One is typically the way that classes have gone in the past is students have gone through the program, graduated, left, and now is the last you'd ever hear of them. But we have an ongoing hashtag for our class, and the students that really were passionate about social media in the classroom and social media marketing actually follow the hashtag, and they know to follow it when the class is in session. And they'll start tweeting in and using some of the stuff that they're doing out in the real world and contributing to the class discussion. And we actually use that hashtag all the way through the class. So that's one way we use Twitter. Another is Twitter is just a great platform to be able to demonstrate the power of social media. And so every semester I challenge the students to connect with a celebrity, a local celebrity, and using only social media. So not going through an agent, not going through a PR person, but actually connecting directly with that person using social media. So the first time we tried this, we tried this with Shaquille O'Neal. And we got no response, but we didn't let failure get us down, or I should say I didn't let failure get me down. I made the same assignment again the following semester, and I leave it up to the students to pick the guest. So this was last semester. They chose Ocho Cinco, who's at Ocho Cinco on Twitter. And essentially what we did is we put together a campaign, a coordinated attempt to get his attention. And we did a lot of research in advance. We saw that he has 3 million followers, over 3 million followers, and there's a lot of noise to break through. Every time he tweets, he gets a tweet back every about 3 seconds. And so there's a lot of noise to break through to get his attention. And so what we did is we did these sort of coordinated campaigns. We created a hashtag called Ocho Cinco, and the idea was to get him to come in, the call to action, we want with a marketing program. The call to action was to get him to come in to the class as a guest professor. He ended up not coming into class, the whole class out to dinner, and we spoke about social media and marketing for about 4 hours. It was really great. So this semester the class selected Kurt Schilling. You know the guy from KALS, and also he might have played for the Red Sox with a bloody sock way back when. And anyway, So they selected him, and we started an outreach campaign. The hashtag was Relieve Our Prof. Playing off of the relief picture side of things, and he already responded back that he's interested in coming in. It's just a timing thing. And I think, and I know I've been talking, and I'll shut up in a second. I think what we're going to be talking about with him is how he uses Twitter and social media to promote his personal brand, but also he's got a video game company, and he is very active in trying to strike out. That's sort of his tagline: strike out ALS. And we're going to hear how he uses social media for both of those.
Hey, that is just awesome. I mean, my hat is absolutely off to you to organizing your students and making that happen. And I'm looking forward to diving in just a little bit more. Mike, let me ask you something. So we're talking a lot about, we're obviously talking about Emerson students here. How are these students engaged with Twitter before they even arrive? Because, I mean, you work a lot with admissions. When they're arriving in the classroom, I'm just curious, Mike, what your thoughts are. Are these students using it before? I mean, is this something where they're kind of getting engaged with the culture at Emerson almost? And engaged on Twitter, so that way when they wind up in a classroom like this, they're even more excited and ready to go, and not sort of, I guess you could say, not starting from square one.
Right. So at Emerson, I definitely see our current student body using Twitter way more than any other social network. Reach out and connect to people they might not have known. I mean, Facebook's that sort of friend-to-friend thing, but a couple things that I've noticed, like So Emerson, which is a hashtag here, kind of talking about the stereotypes at Emerson, is crazy popular. And what I've noticed is that incoming students are using Twitter more and more. So I did a survey last year to ask how many students were joined us on Facebook, followed us on Twitter, and 50% of the incoming students that responded out of like 150 or 200 said they followed Emerson College on Twitter while they were applying, which is crazy. I mean, that's way more than I would expect. So they're coming into the college knowing that Twitter is a really, really powerful tool here. So I think it's just trying to let them know that they're accepted on Twitter right away as a community member. So what we do is we reach out to alums, we'll introduce them to things like the ESM class, Dave's class, and just have them pay attention to the conversation so that when they do join in, they're not fearful of like, well, I don't know what to say, or I don't know what hashtags to use. They come in and just know the language right away.
Very cool. And now, guys, on the back channel, I just want to give a quick shout out.
And just to add on.
Yeah, please.
I was going to say, just here, something really interesting on Twitter from my perspective is I'm not even a full-time professor. I'm an adjunct, and I know more about what's on with the university because of what Mike's doing with the Twitter handle than anything. Like, Mike, congratulations, you just hit 8,000 followers. I mean, how do I know that? I'm following you on Twitter.
I totally agree. I definitely think it's almost a cultural thing, and my hat is off to Mike for the work he has done in integrating it so fully. It's definitely been, exciting for me to watch for sure. Dave, let me toss it back to you and ask you a question. When these students come in, and I just want to dispel a myth. I mean, I assume all the students in class can't be 100% familiar with the technology that they're using. Is that a hurdle, or can students pick this stuff up pretty quickly? I mean, I have to imagine they don't need to have a prereq of 1,000 followers before they take your class or anything.
I mean, literally, it's like watching. We're going at light speed. So if you asked me that question, 2 years ago, it might have taken the class about a week to get up to speed on Twitter. Now, I take an informal poll, and I would recommend actually any professor do this when they start off a class. It just like get an understanding of who's on Twitter, and it's gotten to the point where that's not the question I ask anymore. The question I ask is who's not on Twitter, right? And there's usually like one student, and it's usually someone that's part of like the coming back later in life to get their degree. And they're kind of a little nervous that they're the only one raising their hand. But we get them over that really quickly.
Now, how has the experience been for you with the students when they get to witness the kind of accomplishments that you get when you get an NFL superstar coming to have dinner with you just because the students organized and tweeted them correctly? Or what's the experience like? Because I have to imagine that, again, you can teach social media, but being able to practically have a goal and try something, that has to be such an awesome reward. I mean, you've been written up in mainstream media about this. I mean, the students themselves almost became minor celebrities because of it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to watch them. It's almost like watching like a little kid figure out how electricity works with a light bulb or something for the first time. At one point in time we had Jimmy Fallon had tweeted out to one of my students because we have this local vlogger, Steve Garfield, who I totally recommend having on the show. He's taught some classes also, and he's published a book called Get Seen. And he was in the class as a guest speaker, just talking about some work that he did, trying to break through and connect with Jimmy Fallon. And one of the students just mentioned it on Twitter because that's what we're doing, is encouraging them to kind of share what it is that we're discussing. And Jimmy Fallon just happened to be on Twitter at the time, and messaged the student back, and she fell out of her seat in the middle of class. Yeah, so it's like, you know, they get really excited. It's you know, it's like you know that it's sort of made their day, and it's a real sort of positive lesson learned that you know, that you can have a voice, and when you think strategically and work as a team, you can have an even stronger voice.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's some tweets in the background of someone saying
on a platform like Twitter, and you know, these are the kind of things that we look at. I'm sorry, say again?
Oh, so no, please continue.
Oh, and so these are the things that we look at, like the Arab Spring, or what's been going on with the various occupies, Occupy Boston, and all the other occupies. Is that, you know, we've been looking at a combination of the sort of the sociology and the social media behind it, and how the two, you know, there's a human experience that comes along with it. And since this show is devoted to Twitter, you know, I'd say this, that I used to say that that Facebook was sort of the gateway drug to social media, and that there would be people that would kind of stick up their nose at Twitter and be like, would say things like, I don't understand why someone's updating on you know, something stupid. But it's come down to, you know, Twitter is, I now consider it also a gateway into social media, into other platforms. But Twitter itself is, like Facebook, involves a lot of voyeurism and exhibitionism. But instead of it being that sort of the timeline of the overlap of people that you've connected with physically, it's about ideas. So it's voyeurism and exhibitionism of ideas. Mm-hmm. And that's the sort of the most powerful thing about this. If you're a professor or you have a curriculum that you're trying to you know, build around some key ideas, well, it's very easy to use Twitter search to find those key ideas and find people in your community that are talking about them and connecting with them. And they all of a sudden, you know, start bringing up even, you know, better ideas.
Mm-hmm. You brought up some really good ideas, some really good points in there. One I just want to jump on too, when you're talking about, you know, also connecting with the things that you're teaching. You talk about the Arab Spring and other things going on. Just one short anecdote that I've shared once before on the show, but back when there was the original uprising in Egypt, I was working at UCLA, and one of our students at the School of Public Affairs where I worked was John Scott Railton, who started the Jan 25 Voices Twitter account. And here's a guy who was, as a student, literally at one point the most respected media member of the entire issue, because the whole media had pulled out of the country, and he found a way using landline phones and Audio Boo, a website where you host audio, to let people get their voices out and get this information out. And it was just such an amazing experience. This is a student. And in a small way, I think this is similar, that faculty can latch on to using these tools with the issues that they're trying to teach about. And it's a really exciting thing. I just want to show you, it was one experience for me. Now, Mike, I want to bring you on and ask you a question, because there's some back channel talk saying, you know, obviously not everyone's students are as active on Twitter. I think part of that might have to do with Emerson's demographic too. So when it comes to back to marketing and admissions and applying the tool to achieve institutional goals, is this something where you're trying to use it for everybody, or is this something when you approach Twitter and see how it fits into the enrollment process, are you off the bat saying, like, I know I'm not trying to reach 100% of the students here, I'm sort of reaching for the students that are already here? How do you target that? Because I want to make sure people watching, they don't think that, well, if our whole student body's not on Twitter, this isn't relevant. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that we can give them some information, because I know they think the same way. Is like, how can we apply this to what they're doing?
I mean, I agree with Dave where there's this sort of sociology to Twitter where you're going to join and you're going to participate if people are already there. And it's kind of that chicken and the egg of like, well, if nobody's there, then nobody's going to participate. But I mean, when we started with really being active on Twitter about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, I mean, we had 700 followers and probably only about 10 to 20 students on campus that I really knew that were, you know, on Twitter consistently. And now there's a natural growth to that. But I think what happens is let me bring up one scenario. So there was one of the students that was tweeting using this hashtag called Jackie's Secret. And I think this was kind of a big turning point at Emerson College, where our former president, Jackie Liebergott, there was an email sent out saying that there was going to be an announcement that she was giving at 4 o'clock and students started sort of through the rumor mill were saying, okay, what's she going to announce? And I mean, some of the staff already knew what the announcement was about, but the students were having fun with it. And they were posting pretty hilarious things, not mean-spirited, not anything, just they were, like Dave said, collecting around an idea. And they used that, and everybody was using that Twitter hashtag. And I think what happened is a lot of students that didn't get Twitter all of a sudden joined in. They're like, oh, this is what it's about. This is what I can do. And some of those students became popular and were a voice for the college. So I think it takes a spark like that, and that's just luck. But I mean, you can get those sparks to happen by meeting with students in person, going to the class. I mean, I showed up as a representative behind the @Emerson College account to Dave's class every single semester so far. And I just come in and I say, hey, you know, this is me. I'm this person behind this account. It's not some administrator that doesn't get what's going on. I mean, I'm on it every day. And I think what you need to do is meet with the students individually and look for that spark moment and then support it. You know, don't dismiss it. Don't try to shun it and then, you know, tell every one of those students they're going to be suspended. I mean, you know, you have to celebrate when these kind of things happen on campus and then promote them, put them in a storify, you know, talk about them later in a news article, find the good that's in it and help promote that. But I mean, we've been lucky that we've had some of those moments here on campus and we've just promoted them when they happen.
Now,
and just to add on to Mike's, to add to Mike's point, those these events that are happening, it used to be that they would happen once a semester.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's starting now. It's like then it's twice a semester, and before you know it, it's like once a month. There's something amazing that the school is doing, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you know, we're seeing that our school is ranked as a top 10 in social media in the country, and Mike and I are looking at each other like, "Did you do this?" It's like there's no one on there, and here's the amazing thing about this: there's no one, like, you can't point at my class or at Mike or at a bunch of students that are, you know, doing a flash mob dance in the middle of, you know, a restaurant around the corner from our school. I mean, it's a combination of all this stuff happening, but you can't point at any one of them and say, oh, that's so great, that's what's making us, you know, a top 10. It's the fact that, you know, the school, at least Emerson, really promotes not social media, but promotes sort of the ability for Mike to spread his wings and to experiment. And I think it really comes down to that, is allowing someone like Mike to experiment, and in giving someone like me the ability to teach a class and say, oh yeah, you know, go teach a class in social media. Let's see, you know, what the students think of this. And it's because the Emerson administration's been so open to exploring and experimenting with the communications platform that this has happened. And it's not, like I said, it's not just, you know, it's not one thing that's made it.
Absolutely. No, one of the cool, powerful things about Twitter, I think, when we're talking about all the things you can do with it and be able to leverage it, is also the professional development feature. And I want to ask both of you guys a couple of questions on this briefly, simply because, first up, here's my question to the online audience, guys. How has Twitter impacted your professional development? And I'll say this, I don't believe I'd be in the job I'm in today if Twitter didn't exist. Genuinely, I was back in 2008 when I really started blogging more and getting active, and Twitter was a voice for me to share ideas in education and to be recognized and collaborate with people, and that has set off, really honestly, a snowball effect of what's taken me to a certain place. And the reason I'm asking is not just because I want to ask both, you know, Mike and Dave about this, but because that's an important thing to instill in our students too. Is, I mean, our students are looking to learn and to grow, and it's really great if we can help them understand how things can be professional development tools. So I'm curious to you guys, how has it impacted you professionally, Twitter? And then I'm going to toss that to our guests. So Mike, let me start with you and just ask, you know, professional development, man, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on it? How has Twitter kind of played a role in your career, if it has? I mean, my thought on this is simply both on a personal level, but because this is something I think is really interesting to students as well, is understanding, you know, I guess understanding networking at an early age, but the best part about Twitter, I don't think it's necessarily exactly just about trying to network. It's about just trying to share ideas, and all the extra benefits come as sort of a nice extra.
Well, I'll speak to two different situations. So one is just internally, especially, I mean, I work at a small school, but I still feel like Twitter is a really beneficial tool for me to just connect with other members of the school here, to get involved in more projects. So like Dave, I mean, I'm trying to think of how we first talked to each other, and I'm assuming it was probably over the hashtag and on Twitter, and me following that from the Emerson account, if you @mentioned or something, and then I think we just got in touch on Twitter and then met in person and then kept working on new cool things. So I think internally with your school, it's beneficial just to network with other people that may be interested in the same kind of technologies as you and getting support. So I think that's been really beneficial for me on that side. And on the other side of just networking with other professionals, I mean, it's what I'm building new tools to try to help with. So I mean, it helped me tremendously. And now I'm looking at it going, okay, now it's getting to a point where it's reached a critical mass and there needs to be segmentation. So what can we do to try to help with that? That's why I've been working on some projects on the side to help with hashtags and, you know, specific interests. But I mean, it's the one tool where you can send out good ideas, and if you have good ideas or good content, then you're going to find other people to rally around it with you.
And Dave, what are your thoughts on that?
So just to pick up where Mike left off, first of all, I did not know that there was a position that existed at Emerson I didn't know that Mike existed or that there was a position even. And it was only because of Twitter that we were able to connect. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's actually someone else at the school that doesn't think that this is this, you know, sort of this kind of like hobby-ish, you know, text messaging, you know, what people are having for soup kind of thing. So, you know, certainly connecting internally and finding someone like Mike and being able to, you know, as together, we've actually worked on a couple projects for the university, and what brought us, the university didn't bring us together, it was actually Twitter that did. With the class itself, I guess across universities, I've connected with other marketing professors that are a little bit behind me and say it's their first or second time that they're teaching a social media class, and you know they'll ping me and they'll say, hey, you know, here's my syllabus, can you send me your syllabus? And we have a whole discussion on lesson planning and what, you know, what I'm doing and what works and what doesn't work. But also, the class that I teach is very practical and hands-on, so I'm always looking for startup companies that are desperate for help with you know, their own use of Twitter and social media. And so what I'll do is I'll tweet out, and Boston is just a great place to find startup companies. So I'll tweet out like, hey, hashtag Boston at Emerson College, help us find some startup companies to work with for this semester. And you know, it's not just startup companies that show up and come back. We've had companies as big as Sprint show up and say, hey, we'd love for your class to work with us. And like, the ability for me to bring Sprint to my students, mm-hmm. and have my students work with Sprint on a social media campaign, like you couldn't ask for a better resume builder for a student coming out of class. Mm-hmm. And I guess the last thing is guest speakers. The quality of the guest speakers that I have is so vastly improved since I've been reaching out on Twitter. I mean, I've been able to connect with the authors of our textbooks. So, for example, we use trust agents. So we have Julian Smith, one of the authors of Trust Agents, join us. Paul Gillen, author of Secrets of Social Media and Marketing. And also runs a blog called Newspaper Death Watch. You should check it out. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, he literally counts down to the death of newspapers. So he and talks, and so I connected with these authors using Twitter, and then beyond that, you know, guys like Peter Rojas, who's you know, the New York Times once wrote is the most compensated blogger in the universe. This is the guy that started Engadget and Gizmodo and all these other sites. You know, he Skypes in, and we've been able to connect and tweet to him. So yeah, and the list goes on. So it's not just, you know, the celebrities in sort of the sports and Hollywood scene. It's also the celebrities in sort of the social media world.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love hearing this too, because I also want people to know that you've had some amazing victories, again, with Ocho Cinco and some of the people, like, but to understand that it's not just one-offs. This is like every day. Hearing the speaker list that you have is amazing. Letting students talk to people that wrote the books that they're reading in class, it really is just amazing. Mike, let me ask you a question then. When you have faculty doing things like this, what does that mean for admissions? I mean, I have to say, I mean, again, that's the kind of thing that's a differentiator. That's a value prop for Emerson, that if other schools aren't doing this stuff, if people feel like they can have this kind of access, I mean, it has to be a powerful thing when students are saying, tell me more about Emerson, and you can start sharing these kind of anecdotes, and they understand, you know, how on the cutting edge they really can be.
Well, I think the great part is that stuff rises to the surface if it's really popular, and you find it via social media. So the cool thing is that I just keep a few hashtags open, and I keep an at Emerson College, and I listen to people like Dave and a couple other people, you know, that are influential talk, and then I'll find these students doing really cool stuff. Like Dave, so I think Cassidy was in your class before, Cassidy Quinn, or
yeah. In fact, I sent her a link for from the Ocho Cinco thing, and the Ocho Cinco event, and she ended up winning this and covered the Super Bowl.
So just an example like that there's students that are so active and influential that they can win these contests, show up at these PR events, be tracking stuff on Twitter and presenting, and are in the national spotlight. I mean, that's just awesome, because I have 17-year-olds that are journalism, future journalism majors or marketing majors going, well, is Emerson the school that's going to launch me into the spotlight of this? And I can give them examples of students that are sophomores or juniors that are having this happen. I mean, another example is, so we have an admission blog that we run that I get students to guest post and talk about student life here. The student that's going to help sort of edit the blog this year runs her own blog called 17 and Baking, which has been picked up in like Food and Wine magazine and everything else, and she's got a great following on her blog. And I said, I'd rather just almost promote your blog than have you write sort of that standard admission blog kind of material, and just promote the fact that we have students blogging on really cool topics and there's students here. So, all I would want you to do is talk about how Emerson helped you, if it helped you. And I think that's the cool thing, is that other schools need to realize that there are students under their noses that are doing really cool stuff, and that stuff is promotable. You can actually grab that. You don't have to change it. You don't have to massage it into a marketing message for your college. That is your marketing for your college. So just connect your prospective students to those students or to those news stories, and I think you're doing justice.
By the way, Mike, I need that student. She needs to take my class. Like, here's another perfect example. Now we're on a video blog. I actually go out and recruit students to come to class, because I'm looking for students that are doing new, interesting things like this. So yeah, send her my way, please.
Will do. Yeah.
All right, guys. So we've covered a lot of the stuff I wanted to cover. So if it's all right with both of you, I want to try a little something called the rapid fire round. We tried it with the previous show that I did on politics education. I just want to ask you guys a few questions and just give me some really quick, short answers, and we'll just see how many we can get through if that works for both of you guys. So the first question to both of you.
As long as my bandwidth can hold up.
Yeah, exactly. We're doing okay so far. We had some tech issues last week, but we're holding up. So my first question to both of you, Mike, you can go first, is what's more valuable to you, a retweet or an @ reply?
An @ reply.
Okay, Dave?
I'd say a retweet.
Okay, very cool. First off, I like that there's some differences there. Next one, where would you post first, Twitter or Facebook? If you were trying to share some piece of information that you think would go both places, where do you go to first? What's the one that you would run to first?
For my personal one, I'd say Twitter, if it has to do with me personally.
I'm Twitter 100% down. Facebook is like an afterthought for me.
Okay. What is one thing that anyone using Twitter to try and achieve some kind of goals with it, like some? Let me correct this one. This is not so rapid fire. Okay. What is one thing that we can do to change Twitter and education right now, or that we should?
I would say if you are behind a college account or you have a college account, interact with your current students using that account.
Dave?
I would say connecting the various classes from universities within a certain region using all the same Twitter hashtags, so that if you're studying biology at BU and at BC and at Emerson, if we had a biology class. That they could all sort of share those hashtags and understand what they're all talking about.
Here's the next one for you guys. I think it's an easy one, but it's not something that's done a lot in our industry for some reason, at least not extensively. Should colleges be replying to every student that tweets that they've been accepted?
I try, and I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, but and Mike has seen this this past semester, is that I actually jumped on Twitter, and I didn't get paid to do this. No one asked me to do this. I just jumped on Twitter and started, connecting with the students that were tweeting at us. So one that he didn't hit up, I'm sure I got him. So I would say, yeah, I mean, there's no, you want to bring them in the fold as quickly as possible.
I agree. That's one thing I've noticed that not everyone does. But I love that people in the back channel are already jumping in and saying that they do it. Because absolutely, if someone's sharing with their friends and family publicly saying, hey, I've been accepted, jump in and say congrats. Like you said, like why wait to welcome them in? They're a student. Once they're accepted, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Well, let me throw this out there too. So one of the things that I built in last year to our online acceptance letters is a button that says tweet that you're in, and it pushes a tweet that says I was accepted at Emerson College with the hashtag of EC 2015 at the time, which was their class year. So the big thing is make it easy for them to do that. And I put it right in their acceptance letter. We did the same thing this year. So you'll see a lot of those tweets or variations of them, but it includes an @ handle of Emerson College, which makes it easy for me to find it. And then also the hashtag to get, alums and other people around.
Very cool. So where do you guys, this is a little bit of a larger question. It kind of went through all my rapid fire ones. So let me just ask you the bigger question. And Dave, I want to start with you for this one. Where do you see Twitter's role in the classroom and in higher ed in general in the next couple of years? And I ask because, here we are 2012. Do you think that we're where we're going to be? I mean, there's so much we can do with the tool. You shared so many examples today. Are we going to get there? Do you see it continuing to grow as far as the adoption in the classroom, or is this going to be something that is always going to struggle to be accepted sort of mainstream across a campus?
I think there's two answers to that. One is that yes, it is going to continue to grow, but it's not going to grow as quickly as I would like, or I think any of us would like, because I think that the way that it needs to grow is the professors need to understand it and embrace it, and I don't think they do. And there's also the concept that professors are worried that mobile devices and laptops are distracting to students in class. In my class, it's mandatory to have them, but I could understand if it was not a necessary class where maybe we're learning something like history or writing or something that it might not be appropriate to have a mobile device out, and it could be distracting. I mean, you don't want your students on Perez Hilton in the middle of class. And so there's sort of a fine line in encouraging the students to have those devices. And the challenge is, if you look at the syllabi that most professors have, there's usually a line item in it that says, turn your cell phones off. I don't want distractions. Then, if you're going to have your laptop open, it better not be on a browser. It better be on Microsoft Word, and you better be taking notes. And that's got to change.
Mike, what are your thoughts? Where do you see Twitter in the next couple of years? Has it peaked? Where's it growing? What are your thoughts for the future?
Well, what I've been finding more and more, I think is going to be a trend, especially when it comes to recruiting the next generation of students and connecting them to the campus, is that Twitter is so fluid. It immediately allows a student to participate in a conversation on campus, even if they're not currently a student there. So I feel like more of these classroom settings that are, in a way, public, like Dave's classes, are going to be used as recruitment tools for students to get an idea of what happens in the classroom. Because one of the biggest things that it's tough for us to show on a student tour is what happens in a classroom. But if you, on your mobile device, can be sitting on the couch and say, oh, wait, the ESM class is at 6 o'clock tonight. Let me tune in to see what they're doing. Oh, wait, they have this guest speaker. I read his book too. I'd love to talk to him. They can just join into the class. And like what Dave said is that a student uses the hashtag, they're immediately part of the community. It's a marketing tool that I think is underutilized. But Dave's right. It takes the faculty using it first and the students to partake in it, and then the administrators at the college to realize how powerful of a marketing tool that could be. So I just think as a community device, and being able to curate and know what to push out there, out to the public, is going to be a task of the administrators that we haven't experienced on the full scale yet.
Absolutely. Very, very good point. Well, listen, I know that this is a massive topic that can't be tackled in 40 minutes, but we did our best and tried to. I hope we encapsulated some of this. I really appreciate both your time. So first off, Mike, thank you for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. It was nice joining in.
Cool. And Dave, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your stories for the classroom. It's really exciting to see an instructor that's so passionate about it, and your students are lucky to have you, and we're lucky to have you on the show today.
Well, thanks. It was a pleasure being here, and if you ever want me back, I'm happy to do this again.
I will absolutely take you up on that. Mike knows all too well from making that offer that this is like his 5th time on the show, I think. So awesome. Well, listen, thanks to both of you guys for coming on the show, and thanks to you guys for watching. Obviously, this is a huge topic, Twitter and education, but I do hope that we captured a little bit of something. I loved your feedback in the back channel. Where does this conversation go next? That's what I'm going to ask you, because again, we're in 2012. We're hearing some amazing stories about the implementation of Twitter in education, but at the same time, campus to campus, classroom to classroom, there's still some gaps in our game. And is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Where are we going? So what I leave with you today is a question for you. Where does the conversation on Twitter education go next? Where do you want to see me take it? I will go out, I'll get the people, I'll bring them in here. We have a platform. Let's have a dialogue. But where do we go next? That's the question that I'm going to be thinking about. If nothing else, it's to run online and get celebrities to tweet you back. Because it can be done. We've heard it. And let's be honest, guys. It's one of the cooler things ever. Last question of the day. I want to know who's the coolest celebrity that's tweeted at you. Let me know. That's always a fun one to do. Everyone's got the few in their cap, I guess you could say. But anyways, Twitter and education. Thank you guys for joining. We are going to be back next week with another show, and then after that, well, I'm back in Los Angeles, California. I'm going to be coming to you live from the Omni Update User Conference, bringing you some great keynote videos there. And till next time, hope you guys take care of yourselves. Thanks for tuning in to Higher Ed Live. As always, my hat is off to you guys for taking the time to listen, learn, love, share, and to just give a heck of a lot about education. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.